it's pretty serious, but I will tell you that before I went to law school, the University of Houston Law School, I was terrified of the police because I grew up in 3rd Ward, and the police do what they do in certain areas. And I thought they could do certain things because that's just what I understood in my world. And then I went to law school and found out, dude, I have constitutional rights. And they don't get to just go through my car, and they don't get to just show up at my house, they don't get to just kick my door in. You know, they don't get to do all those things. That they have to have probable cause, and they have to have a search warrant. And all of a sudden I didn't, you know, when I used to drive, when I would see police, I would get afraid. I mean, and I wasn't doing anything illegal. But in the world that I grew up in, it didn't matter if you were doing things illegal. Police had a way of just popping up in your life. And, you know, my biggest fear living here is being a single mom to an African-American male child. And I raised my child to know all the rules when the police come to you. And I was honored to be invited to be a part of ALF, American Leadership Forum Criminal Justice Class 1. And I told them at the beginning of our time together that my biggest fear was that something bad would happen to my son at the hands of the police. And my son's nightmare was that he would die a violent death before he turned 25. Think about how profound that is. My son's mom is a lawyer. My son's mom is a city council person. And he believes that he won't see 25 and that he's going to die a violent death. As a parent, you want to give your child peace of mind. And so as I have tried to do everything right with my child, and he started to think, well, all that stuff my mom warned me about isn't going to happen. He graduated from KIPP Houston High School, cum laude, got a scholarship, partial scholarship to go to college. In fact, he's in college right now. And in August of 2010, he got jacked by the police as he was going into my car, which he had my keys with the remote. But clearly, he and Sean, his friend, who's at Tufts University in Boston, and he graduated from high school magna cum laude, and he's on a substantial partial scholarship in Boston, got jacked on my car because clearly they must be breaking into my car where I had my keys. And so I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know when. And I'm thankful that he wasn't hurt more than psychologically. He didn't name drop. My son does not want to get anything because I'm his mom, because he wants to earn it on his own, because I taught him to do that. So he doesn't say, my mom is. But when they ask him, whose car is it? He said it belongs to Jolanda Jones. He didn't say, my mom. And the officer, I'm guessing, recognized my name and said, and you have this car, why? And he said, it's my mom. So the officer scurried away. Scurried. And my son was afraid because he didn't know he and his friend were going to get jacked by the police because he wasn't doing anything. In fact,
I'm sorry, what jack? Does that mean, what is it?
You have to put your hands on the car, spread your legs. I mean, for what?
Gotcha.
He was coming home from work. He and Sean had actually worked that day, and the group that they worked for parked the cars at Gulfgate, and then they went out and did their jobs, and they all came back and were dropped off back at Gulfgate. Again, clearly my child must be breaking into my car. So, and my son hasn't done anything to anybody. My son has done everything right. And let me tell you, I'm really proud of my son because most of the men in my family have been to prison or are dead, or have committed suicide. My dad and two of his brothers committed suicide. And so it was a big, big, big deal for my son to not go to prison and for my son to do positive things. And for me to teach my son that if he does everything right, that the world is his oyster. I don't like that my son got profiled by the police. My son didn't deserve that. And no one deserves that. And I guess I'm very lucky that he's my son because I can think of what might have happened to him had he not been my son.
Now let me ask you this. Now in all fairness of the police department, if there's a high concentration of violence or crimes within a particular geographic area, is it not wise of them to focus more of their attention on that particular area?
I actually
Using
believe,
whatever technology or what?
I actually believe that's an ambiguous question, and I also believe that it's self-fulfilling. So if I profile in a neighborhood and I arrest people, whether they should be arrested or not, then that's going to drive up the numbers, and then it's going to cause a justification. And it wouldn't matter if I lived in a high crime area. And oh, by the way, I do live in a high crime area. I've had a number of murders, at least 6 in my neighborhood.
So would you
14-year-old
want more
kid.
officers in that neighborhood? I would.
Well, but even if I do live in a high crime area, that gives them the authority to do something to me when I'm not doing anything. I mean, I'm just asking you.
If you're not doing anything,
Yeah, my son wasn't doing
it's almost
anything.
kind of like being a little bit more inconvenienced when you go through the airport, right?
No, you don't get to violate my civil rights because you think I might do something. You don't get to do that. The Constitution protects us from that.
So what does your pamphlet say essentially?
It says, let's see, where do I have it?
I'm glad you didn't pull it from anywhere
It
else.
says,